Have you ever had that strange feeling that something happened, but you just can't remember what? Or maybe someone told you a story from your past and you had no memory of it at all, like a chapter missing from your life. And then there's the even stranger experience. You do remember something clearly, only to find out later that it never happened. What if I told you your brain might be hiding, distorting, or even fabricating your memories? Not as a glitch, but by design. Let's dive into one of the most fascinating mysteries of the human brain: memory. Not just how we remember, but how we forget, how we misremember, and how sometimes we invent. Now, when people think about memory, they often imagine it like a file cabinet or a video recorder, somewhere in the brain where memories are stored, neatly labeled, just waiting to be pulled out and replayed. But the truth is, your brain doesn't store memories like files. It reconstructs them like a puzzle. And each time you recall a memory, you're not pulling it out. You're rebuilding it from scattered pieces. That's right. Your memory is more like a story your brain tells itself, using fragments, feelings, and associations. And that story is vulnerable to time, to emotion, to suggestion, even to our beliefs. Let's go back to the basics. Memory is a complex process involving three main stages: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Encoding is when your brain registers an experience, what you see, hear, feel. Storage is how your brain keeps that information over time. And retrieval is what happens when you bring that memory back into consciousness. Sounds simple, right? But here's where it gets complicated. Each of these steps is fragile. During encoding, your brain filters out most of the information around you. You're not recording everything, you're picking and choosing. During storage, the memory can weaken, fade, or become distorted. And when you retrieve it, the act of remembering can actually change the memory itself. Think about that. Every time you remember something, you're slightly rewriting it. Your memories aren't like photographs. They're more like sketches that get redrawn again and again, and over time, they evolve. Now let's talk about how and why your brain might hide memories. Sometimes it's intentional. Traumatic memories, for example, can be repressed. This is the brain's way of protecting you. When something deeply painful happens, abuse, violence, a major loss, the brain might lock that memory away, push it deep into the unconscious. Not deleted, but buried. Psychologists have debated for decades whether repressed memories can resurface later in life. Some people suddenly recall experiences they hadn't remembered for years, triggered by a smell, a word, or a therapy session. And while some of these recovered memories have been validated, others have turned out to be false, planted unintentionally by suggestion or imagination. This brings us to a powerful and unsettling concept: false memories. In the 1990s, cognitive psychologist Elizabeth Loftus ran a series of groundbreaking experiments showing just how easy it is to implant false memories in people's minds. In one study, she convinced participants that they had been lost in a shopping mall as a child, a completely fabricated story. Yet many of them not only believed it had happened, they began to remember details: the store layout, the clothes they were wearing, even what a stranger had said to them. This phenomenon is known as the misinformation effect. It shows that when someone is exposed to misleading information after an event, it can become part of their memory. Our brains are suggestible. We don't just remember what happened, we remember what we believe happened. And sometimes, belief is stronger than fact. This has serious implications. In courtrooms, in therapy, in everyday life. Eyewitness testimonies have led to wrongful convictions because the witness truly believed in a memory that wasn't real. And in therapy, well-meaning practitioners have sometimes unintentionally implanted memories of events that never occurred. But before we get too cynical about memory, let's explore the other side: the adaptive power of forgetting. You might Think forgetting is a flaw, a glitch in the system. But in many ways, forgetting is essential. Your brain is constantly bombarded with information, every sound, sight, word, thought. If you remembered everything, your mind would be overwhelmed. Forgetting allows your brain to focus on what's important. Neuroscientists now believe that forgetting is not just a passive process, it's active. The brain has mechanisms designed to weaken certain neural connections, to prune unnecessary information. In fact, a protein called RBAP48 has been linked to age-related memory loss, suggesting that the brain's ability to choose what to forget may decline with age. There's even a theory that forgetting helps us adapt. Imagine you had a painful breakup. If you remembered every detail, every word, every emotion, in full clarity, how would you ever move on? Forgetting softens the sharp edges of memory. It allows healing. And then there's memory suppression. This isn't about trauma, it's about control. In one fascinating study, researchers asked participants to learn pairs of words, then told them to suppress certain words when shown the first word. Brain scans showed increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area linked to decision-making and control, and decreased activity in the hippocampus, where memories are formed. In other words, the brain was actively turning down the volume on those memories. It was choosing what not to remember. But here's the twist. Sometimes what we think we've forgotten isn't really gone. It's just hidden. Think about a time when you couldn't remember a name or a place, and then it suddenly came to you hours later. That's called spontaneous retrieval. The memory was there all along, just out of reach. And these moments hint at something profound. Your brain holds more than you're aware of. Beneath the surface of consciousness, there's a vast ocean of implicit memory, skills, habits, emotions, and traces of the past that influence your decisions without you even realizing. Your childhood home, the smell of your grandmother's cooking, the way you instinctively react to conflict or kindness. These are all shaped by memories you might not be able to name, but they live inside you. And this brings us to a powerful realization. Memory is not just about the past. It's the lens through which we experience the present and imagine the future. When you plan something, when you imagine tomorrow, your brain pulls from your memories. In fact, the same neural circuits used for remembering the past are activated when you imagine the future. So if your memories are distorted, your vision of the future may be too. That's why understanding your own memory matters. It's not just a mental filing system. It's your identity, your decisions, your dreams. So what can you do with this knowledge? First, be humble about your memories. Just because something feels true doesn't make it accurate. Always leave space for the possibility that your brain filled in some gaps, rewrote some scenes, or forgot some truths. Second, be mindful of suggestion. Be careful how you remember stories, especially when emotions are high. The more you talk about a memory, the more it can change. If you're helping someone else recall something, don't lead. Listen. Third, strengthen the memories that matter. Repetition, reflection, writing things down. These help stabilize memories over time. Your brain is plastic. You can shape it. And finally, forgive yourself for forgetting. It's not failure. It's not weakness. It's biology. And sometimes it's grace. Because in the end, memory is not about perfect accuracy. It's about meaning. It's the story your brain tells to make sense of the world. And while that story might shift and evolve, it's still yours. So the next time you forget something or remember it differently, don't panic. Don't judge. Instead, get curious. Ask why. Ask what your brain might be trying to protect or highlight or reshape, because that's not a glitch. That's your brain, doing what it was designed to do. And maybe, just maybe, there's wisdom in what we forget.